Hi everyone. Welcome to my live Q&A, my monthly live Q&A where you can ask me anything. And I'm just going to tweet out that I'm live. Not that it helps because Twitter is so fucked now. That you just even though I have something like 8,000 followers or something, like it just and I pay for the premium, like it just doesn't do anything. 8,752 followers on X, but that counts for nothing now, thanks to Mr. Musk, because links just don't work. But yeah, now is your time to ask me anything. I will say I did not see Raw last night. I just couldn't be bothered watching it, to be honest. It was a taped show, um, from Saudi Arabia. They taped it on Sunday night, I think, and I read all the spoilers from it, and I just didn't want to give up 2 hours of my evening watching Raw. So, any questions to do with Raw, I won't be able to answer them. I'm just waiting for CM Punk to come back to WWE, honestly, and get something good going. As we get towards the end of the year. But hello, everyone that's in the chat. Hello to Maria, who says, hello, Stephanie. Hello to Fernando, who says, what's up? And happy election day to my fellow Americans in the chat. Well, I hope it's a happy election day. I'll be up watching all the election coverage tonight, but I doubt it takes a while in America for you to tell us the winner, right? So I doubt we'll get a winner before I go to bed. Let me just crack open my Diet Coke. So yeah, what do you want to talk about? What do I want to talk about? Um, Hello to Jake. Um, what is? Will I talk about my thoughts on Crown Jewel? I thought Crown Jewel was a very B pay-per-view. Like it felt very minimum effort. I don't think the matches were very good. I thought Cody Gunther was good in a way. Um, it wasn't like either of their best match. It probably could have done with being a little longer. I personally would have gone for Gunther winning, but I can see that Cody, it's very important to keep Cody strong because we're not that far from WrestleMania season, and who knows what he'll be doing at WrestleMania season and who he'll be doing it with. So I get having Cody win, but I personally would have picked Gunther. Um, I think the bravest thing they did was have Solo Sikoa pin Roman Reigns, which was a brave move, but Solo really needed it because he'd been looking like such an idiot recently, um, that he needed something to establish himself. So I thought that was pretty brave having Roman, of all people, take the pinfall. Fernando says the women's tag team championship match was fire. I thought it got going at the end and they really got the crowd into it, but the whole division feels like pretty stale right now. And like Triple H hasn't been very good with the women, to be honest, since taking over, which is such a shame because he really was in NXT, but he seems to have lost that on the main roster. I thought Nia and Liv wasn't good at all, but I didn't think it was going to be. Neither of them were particularly good wrestlers, or they're kind of both just not very good. And Tiffany just looks like an idiot. She's always comes down, teases cashing in and doesn't. And I think they've just done too many cash-in teases with her where she just looks stupid. Like she needs to pick a side when it comes to her friendship with Nia because she just looks like an idiot, kind of teasing, cashing in all the time. And Liv, like the overly emotional reaction to winning the belt, I get why it was emotional for her because she's someone who has tried like a long time to get an opportunity, right? You know, remember the Riot Squad, remember that documentary about her that was on the network that was more honest than most things on the network. So I get that she's very happy to be put in this position, but at the same time, like she's a heel. And it was just kind of weird having her and Cody together because they both won. Like Fernando says here, without Rhea, the Liv title reign makes no sense. And I wouldn't say that it makes no sense, but she's very much a champion just because of Rhea Ripley, like just for the Rhea Ripley storyline. So when Rhea isn't there, like Rhea is currently injured, she has an orbital bone injury. When Rhea's not around and when it's not Liv directly challenging Rhea and using Dominic and Raquel in that way, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work as well because they haven't really fleshed out Liv Morgan's character is basically just a woman who wants revenge on Rhea Ripley. So she'll take her title, she'll take her man, she'll take her friends. Like that's just her character. So when you take Rhea out of the equation, Liv is just left there as this very like one-dimensional person. So yeah, that was very good. The three-way LA Knight, Carmelo, and Andrade was probably the best match on the show. I didn't like Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins. I wanted them to do something really brave there. I wanted it to be like a Brock Lesnar style squash and have Bronson just kill Rollins. I thought that would have been a good moment. And they've done so much work on Bronson Reed that it would not be nice to see them like fully stand behind him and give him the big win there. But I think that Triple H, he wanted one brave moment for the show, and that was Roman being pinned by Solo. The Kevin Owens Randy Orton thing, I just kind of felt nothing of that. I'm maybe a controversial take, but I'm really sick of Randy Orton. I think I've been sick of Randy Orton for about 20 years, so I don't really get invested in anything that he does. He's just like furniture to me. And they were building Kevin Owens up here as a real threat, so much so that Triple H had to get involved to actually sanction the match. And then when it came to it, it just felt like there wasn't like all they could do was as much as they could within the confines of WWE. So I don't think Owens came off as any more dangerous coming out of it. We just didn't get the match. I think that was all the matches on the show, but yeah, it was just fine. I think it's really sad how normalized the Saudi shows have become. Like sports washing really works. It's not just WWE that does it. So everyone just accepts the Saudi shows. They accept the big difference between how the women and men dress, because now we have to be grateful that the women are allowed to wrestle at all. So the shows always make you feel a bit icky. And this one, although they are now totally in canon shows like they used to be, this one just felt very B-level compared to the other stuff that Triple H has been putting on, because something like Bad Blood, is not one of their pay-per-views, and that was way more eventful than this. So the only other good thing was that it was on in the afternoon, so I could just watch it during the day. So that was really nice. Okay, Fernando says, and get your questions in. Who do you think has been booked worse as women's champion, Liv Morgan or Mariah May in AEW? Mariah May in AEW, honestly, they're kind of in a similar situation in that they both exist solely because of the person they're opposed to, right? So Mariah May was brought in to have this feud with Toni Storm, and her whole character was based around her being Toni Storm's understudy. And then we had the break there, and then Mariah got her big win at Wembley. And they've just found nothing else to do with her. She only seems to get to do anything when Mina Shirakawa is put back in the picture. But other than that, I think that a lot of the stuff they've been giving her has been very diva level era, just very badly written. And it's like they worked so hard to do the her and Toni Storm thing that they just never thought past it. And this is someone that we're led to believe had this massive plan to trick Toni Storm into thinking that she was her ally, and then ultimately turn on Toni Storm and take the belt away from her. So she had all that forethought, planning, scheming, obviously very smart. But then for afterwards, her to just be such a nothing champion, it's just very bad booking and very bad storytelling. I haven't really seen anything in the feud between her and Anna Jay, but I just think the AEW women's division as a whole, as much as it's improved, they were starting from like the lowest possible level because it was so bad for so long, and they have better names in there now, but I still don't think they're using them to their full potential. And I do think that that Mercedes coming in, because she hasn't really risen to the occasion in AEW. I think that she has been a bit of a flop, and I think a lot of that is to do with her character, and just being a really bad promo and not wrestling enough. Mercedes coming in feels to me like a less extreme version of when Saraya came in, and Saraya really fucked up how they were going about the women's division, because the women's division was on a really good path until she put a total like fork in the road. And similarly, like Saraya was brought in as a face, and she had to be quickly turned heel because she was scripted to just like tear these women apart. And Mercedes seemed to come in as a face as well, but she was so heelish that she had to be turned too. So it's a similar situation. I feel like the best thing AEW can do with their women's division is just get behind the women that are actually theirs. So like theirs from the beginning. So whether it's Britt Baker, who, even though she's not the best wrestler, she's certainly the most successful AEW woman. So like Britt Baker, Willow, Chris Statlander, like let's not fuck around with Chris Statlander like they've been doing. People like that, like just get behind those people, because every time you bring in an ex-WWE woman, it just seems to mess things up. And with Mercedes, she came in with a lot of hype with her own writer and her own many other things. And I just don't think the investment has been that worthwhile. And I would also say that unlike when you have had some other ex-WWE stars who've come in and they've brought a whole new audience, I think what we've really seen with Mercedes is that her very rabid fans that maybe some of us have experienced on the internet were Sasha Banks fans and not Mercedes Vernado fans, not Mercedes Moné fans. So yeah, I don't even know how I got to that. But yeah, Mariah May is a worse booked champion than Liv Morgan, because even though Liv exists solely in opposition to Rhea, the storyline between her and Rhea has been plotted out a lot better. And yeah, I just think that May is booked way worse. Okay, let me see what else are questions here. Okay, Maria says, do you think the documents the Bucks were shredding were going to be a major plot point for later, or was it just a bit? I don't know if it's going to be a major plot point, but just because I liked it, I hope they do something with it, that it does turn out to be something. I'm really not sure where this storyline is going when it comes to the Bucks. We obviously saw Kenny Omega is cleared, and he made this announcement on New Japan, which is like a whole other issue. But I would say Kenny's coming back at some point, and the Bucks will come back as faces. But if the Bucks are going to have be faces, they're going to need to do a lot of work to make this make sense, because they brutally attacked per Kenny and delivered a Meltzer driver to Tony Khan. So they're really going to have to explain themselves. But I hope the document shredding is something. I hope like maybe it explains why as soon as they lost their titles, they were out of there. Like, did they have something special going on with the titles that meant that they kept power or were kind of left alone? But from what I've heard, I think it was probably Ibu that said this, that the Bucks dropped the titles on Dynamite because that was the last appearance they had on their 2024 contract. So it's all business, right? Jake from Windy City says, "Hi Steph, hope you're doing well. With everything transitioning over to Netflix, are you gonna miss the original WWE Network?" Yeah, I will miss the original WWE Network. It's been very good to have it in the UK. It's nice to just look up matches that you remember. I didn't think the WWE Network was that good an idea at the time. Their projections on it were crazy, and the idea of when they did it, the idea of moving everything to pay-per-view and not paying for pay-per-views, obviously that's really good for the fans, but it seemed like a bad business decision. But now in 2024, with so much streaming, it seems a much better idea that you just pay whatever, like $10 a month to get to see everything. But yeah, I'll miss the network. We've still had it in the UK long past the US having it. But I'm so excited and interested to see what WWE is going to be like on Netflix. I saw a report the other day saying that they want Travis Scott for the first Raw on Netflix. Yeah, there's some Travis Scott songs that I really like from what I think is his most recent album. Circus Maximus, I fucking love that song so much. It's so incredibly 80s. It literally sounds like a Nick Rhodes Duran Duran remix. Like, if you're a big Durani, like, you'll know what I mean. If Travis Scott opened the first Raw on Netflix singing Circus Maximus, I think that would just be so cool. It would be over for everyone else. Darren Walker says, Tony Storm has been fantastic, though. I know some people don't like the character. Yes, the character isn't for me, but her performance is incredible, and it's pure commitment. And a lot of the videos that she's made, whether it was like the videos that she made around when she was doing CMLL, like, they're so funny, and you can't falter when it comes to commitment. So would I want the character of someone who thinks they're a 1930s, 40s starlet in my wrestling promotion on my TV show? No. But if I had to do it, I'd want Toni Storm to be the person doing it, because she's completely committed to the bit. And she was great at it. So, like, it's not for everyone. It's probably not for me, but I can't fault her at all. And in ring, she is really, really good. Malcolm says, Sasha is so cold, and when they sign these big contracts, they have limited dates and less time to get over with fans, just like Okada. He good, but when you barely wrestle, nobody cares. Yeah, I don't know what Sasha Mercedes contract is like, but I don't know if it's a question of her not wanting to wrestle on TV or them wanting to use her as a special attraction. But the real problem when it comes to her is that wrestling is how she gets over, because I'm not trying to be harsh, but she's an appalling promo, an appalling talker, and she looks amazing and the outfits are incredible. But when you're just presenting yourself as someone that wears really great outfits, it seems really shallow and vapid, and it's just not endearing to the fans. But her in-ring performances, though, haven't even been that great in AEW, so it's just been a tough one. But I think I don't want to say it was like a mistake for her to jump, but I wonder if she could be doing a lot better in Triple H's WWE now. Maria says, do you think there should be a War Games match for the women at Survivor Series this year? Only if it makes sense, and I don't really see a clear path of it making sense right now. I'm not really into them just doing a women's War Games match because there's a men's War Games match. So they would have to set out something where it makes sense for the women to want to clash in this really violent way. And obviously, like, the main storyline that's going on when it concerns women is Liv and Rhea, but there's only two of them if you add Raquel as well. So I think the only way to do it would be for Liv and Rhea, who might not be even cleared by Survivor Series, to head up a team where they pick people to fight on their side. But in the end, we're all just waiting for Rhea and Liv, and I feel like that would be a bit of a waste of it. Fernando says, have we seen the last of Ricky Starks in AEW? I think so. This is one of those ones where no one's really talking. No one seems to have a proper scoop on it. I don't know anything about it. I've never asked about it though, but I don't know anything about it. But it seems really obvious that Ricky's just not happy. And Tony doesn't help by not addressing anything like this. And Ricky is so cryptic on Twitter, and it just feels like the guy is sitting out his contract, and he looks primed to go to WWE. He's got Cody there. He's very close with Cody, and he's very, very, very close with Jade Cargill. So he definitely get a spot in WWE. And I think he's just fed up. And when he does leave, if he leaves, it would be good to analyze his career, because in AEW, because it was very stop-start, some of that due to injury. But I think the past 2 years have been quite bad for him. He got sucked into the Jericho vortex. I really don't think he enjoyed that. I remember interviewing him couple of days before his match with Jericho, and I just got like a vibe there. And then CM Punk wanted him as one of his Collision guys, which seemed to work out. He got put in the tag team with Big Bill, which may have seemed odd at first, but those two really made it work. And then CM Punk left, and he ended up having that great strap match with Bryan Danielson. And then we were just we always just seem to go back to square one with Ricky. Like, it doesn't matter who he feuds with or if he's tag team champion. Like, when it ends, we're just like back to the beginning. So I can get why he's frustrated. He's very talented. I don't see him rising to the main event in WWE, but I think he could carve out a really good little career for himself. So I would like him to be back on TV in some company, but I totally understand if AEW isn't for him. And yeah, I wish more people were kind of just honest with the situations that they were in and just willing to leave. And I wish guys were allowed to leave when they wanted to. Like, I know Montez Ford has been expressing a ton of disappointment recently on how the Street Profits are used, and like, good for him. Advocate for yourself, and if you really don't think it's going to work out, the relationship, then move on. Okay, let me see. With the Bucks, Fernando says, with the Bucks off television, should Okada turn face and be separated from the Elite? I don't know if he should turn face, but I would love him to grow into just being Rainmaker Okada. It's really weird what they've done with him, and I really don't know if it's his choice or not, but it's just so bizarre to step back from everything and think about Okada. Like the other day, I was asked for my list of all time who I thought were the best wrestlers of all time. And it was 8 I was asked for. And I couldn't definitively decide on the last one, even though they weren't in any order. But I did want to put Okada in there. But I don't feel comfortable doing that right now because there was a time when I would have put Nakamura in there because I was a huge fan of Nakamura, and I wouldn't now based on his WWE run. And I think a lot of people think that when it comes to his place in the Observer Hall of Fame, that's maybe why you should wait to see how things pan out for people. So I don't really know what they should do with Okada, but he seems to be really enjoying himself. And it does feel like this is kind of his decision and who he wants to be. I just want to see him have a really hot feud with Takeshita. Oh, okay. This looks like a great question coming from Lady B here. As an Omega girly, yes, I'm one too, and he was in my top wrestlers of all time. I can't help but wonder why in the world would they not have Kenny's return on AEW TV, considering ratings and attendance that would have almost guaranteed they won against NXT on Wednesday. I really think the only answer to why they didn't have it is Tony being soft. Honestly, like, sorry, Tony, but Kenny loves New Japan, and that is his favorite promotion in the world. And he made that clear that he thinks that New Japan is the best promotion in the world. This guy took Japanese citizenship, learned Japanese, but then AEW came along and he made the decision to go with his friends who they really, really wanted him to come, because as much as you had Cody and you had Jericho and the Bucks, I think you really needed Omega. So I'm not sure if Kenny's heart has ever fully been in like this commitment to American television wrestling. I think he prefers New Japan. And what I honestly think happened is just that Tony, being a nice guy, let Kenny do this. He let him do it at New Japan because obviously Kenny has been through a lot over the past year with his diverticulitis. But I think that Tony needs to be a firmer boss in these things. Like, Kenny can go to Japan in January, that's fine, but his actually coming back, declaring he can wrestle again, that should have been done on AEW TV, and that's something that Tony should have put his foot down on. He should have said, like, with all due respect, Kenny, I know how much you care about Japan, but I am your boss. I am the person paying you. I am the person under contract. And this is something that you could do to help AEW right now, because as Liddy B points out, we have ratings down, we have attendance down, and tomorrow night, head to head with NXT. So even if Kenny was to appear on Dynamite tomorrow night, it's not got the same impact as if it was a pre-announced thing and he hadn't done the New Japan appearance. So Tony just needs to put his foot down and stuff like that. And there's a time and a place for being a nice guy, but it's not a horrible, evil thing to do to say, Kenny, look, I am the one that's paying you a ton of money to be a member of my roster. So can you do your comeback on AEW and not make it so blatantly look like you prefer New Japan as a company? Because I think he honestly does just prefer New Japan as a company because he loves Japan. so much, and that's where his heart is. But yeah, Tony should have put his foot down on that. I thought that was a very bad decision. Maria says, do you think Becky Lynch can work in AEW or flop the way Saraya and Mercedes have? I think that Becky is a way better all-rounder than Mercedes. She's obviously better than Saraya. That's like no comparison whatsoever. But to compare Becky and Mercedes, I think Becky's a better all-rounder when you have in-ring plus character work plus mic skills. My favorite horsewoman will always be Bayley, but I would put Becky at number 2. And she's a fellow Irish girl like me, so I can always relate. I think Becky has a better chance in AEW than Saraya and Mercedes, solely based on adding her promo skills to her in-ring work, because in-ring counts for a lot in AEW. It counts for the most, but we know that the bigger stars don't wrestle every week. So they then need to also be good with mic work, with character work, and Becky like blows Mercedes out of the water in that. So I think that Becky has a better chance in AEW, but I don't see her ever going to AEW, honestly. I think that she has a lot of things that she wants to do in her life. I think that she loves being a mom, and I think that she probably realizes that the easiest path for her is to just stay in WWE. You get a lot of comfort in WWE. She is a big enough star to call her own shots as far as like limited dates and stuff like that. Husband is there. They can take their baby daughter Rue on the road. And I just don't see Becky in this stage in her life being hungry enough to jump to AEW, like hungry for wrestling. I get why Mercedes did it. She's she's not got children. She's a single woman. She wanted to travel the world. She wanted to prove herself in all those different ways. And I think she's someone that very much felt like hard done by WWE, or that they didn't see her at the level that she saw herself. And with all the success that Becky's had, I don't think that's something that Becky can say. So I don't see Becky ever going, but I do think she would have a better chance. Hello to Sean, who just want to say hello. Great show as per. Hope you're doing well. I am. Thank you. Joe says Ricky off EastEnders has more chance to turn up on Dynamite than Ricky Starks now. Okay. Sid Rhodes, hello. Are you a fan of WWE and TNA working together in NXT? I think that it's been fine so far, but it just feels like it is a backdoor for Jordynne Grace and Joe Hendry. They wanted those two on their programming, so they made this little deal. I do think TNA has benefited a bit. They've had attendance go up, but it's not been, obviously it's not any kind of equal partnership. But the best thing to come out of it for me is Jordynne Grace getting on a bigger stage. And I don't think that's a good thing for TNA, because they're just going to take her and they're going to be left without Jordynne Grace in the women's division. And circling back to AEW, one of the biggest mistakes that AEW ever made was Tony not taking Jordynne Grace when the company started. Fernando says, what would you like AEW to accomplish within the next 5 years? I want them to grow. I want them to try and get back to where they were when they actually challenged WWE. They seemed hungry to challenge WWE. They had that spirit of rebellion and defiance, and they offered a true alternative. I think that a lot of people in the company don't appreciate that enough. They don't appreciate how much people wanted it to be an alternative and were willing to support that, and how much they're real hardcore fan base don't want it to be like WWE. And then I think when you're an alternative, even if you even the WWE fans have more chance of liking you because you're at least offering something different to them. I think there's a lot of people that just don't understand what made the company so successful in the beginning and so necessary as well. I think like I mean you can kind of take Jericho's career as an example because I always felt a lot of stuff he did in WWE was too sports entertainment for me, and I wasn't particularly a fan. I think that the Festival of Friendship was a really good moment, but I've said before, overall, in my company, I wouldn't have let someone do the list gimmick on TV, even though it got over. I just would have been like, no. But what made me like him again more than I had for his entire WWE run was what he went and did in Japan. And I think he brought that to AEW, like reinvented himself. And then at some point we just went back to WWE stuff, and then here we are now with the Learning Tree. And I think there was like such a spirit in the beginning of being different, and the characters were so different, and MJF felt so different as a character. He did feel there was something great about his fully in character, like edgelordiness. And then he just became an agent. Like, so I would like to see AEW get more back to their roots, I think, over the next 5 years, but use it to grow the audience. And I would like to see Tony really step up. I would like to see him admit his faults where he can't do everything and he needs to delegate a little bit or just accept some help. And I would also, as harsh / terrible as this sounds, I would like to see him take a real look at the roster and kind of clear out some dead weight, stop bringing in so many WWE people that just aren't a fit. I'd like to see him get this Ring of Honor shit sorted out. If they do get a TV deal, I'd like to see him just delegate that whole promotion to someone else, because there's many different, we can all argue over when things started to go wrong, but I think really key points was Cody leaving, Tony buying Ring of Honor, and the different points of CM Punk drama. So I would really like to see Tony kind of admit where he's not strongest. Simon, is there a future for Ortiz in AEW? I don't think so at this point, sadly. I think that Santana has done really well for himself. And Santana was the one who was very serious and who didn't like a lot of what was being done with him and Ortiz, and just the way their little feud was treated. That earlier this year or last year. It just showed that it wasn't something that Tony really cared about. And I think Ortiz without Santana is much harder to get on board with than Santana without Ortiz. So I don't really think there is, sadly, a future for Ortiz. Let me see. Okay. Which former NXT UK wrestler do you think is doing best in the main roster in WWE? Well, it's got to be Gunther, right? It's got to be Gunther. I don't really see Blair Davenport doing much. Tyler Bate is truly awful. He's a little Triple H and Shawn just really like that guy, but he's a bit of a sad story of the UK scene, I think. So yeah, Gunther, former NXT UK champion. I'm trying to think of who all came from NXT UK. Oh, Aoife as well. She was doing okay earlier this year, but yeah, definitely Gunther. Fernando says a lot of people on social media have been saying that Lash Legend looks better in the ring right now than Jade. Do you agree? I'd have to watch her more, but I think she's held her own when she's been brought into these bigger spots in the main roster, and she did pretty okay during Crown Jewel. Jade hasn't. Jade has been slow to develop. I think that's fair to say, and maybe a lot of that is like whatever athletic ability she has actually for wrestling, and the kind of lack of training that there maybe was in AEW. But I could see Lash Legend it certainly overtaking Jade as far as in-ring work pretty quickly. Joe says, as much as I think he is great, am I the only person who thinks Michael Oku would get lost quicker in AEW than a kid in a supermarket? I like the phrasing. I really would love to see Michael and Amira get the opportunity in AEW, but I'm not exactly sure where they'd fit in because of it being such a stacked roster. So yeah, I think he would get lost pretty quickly, honestly, and that's just because of the way Tony books and the hierarchy of guys that he has. I would love to see him get the opportunity, but yeah, I'm not sure where he'd fit in. Fernando says, are you going to Full Gear? Yes, I am. Fernando says, if you were starting a promotion and you could only sign either Jay White or Will Ospreay, who do you choose? 100% Jay White. I'm sorry, but to me, and I know people won't agree, like, to me, Jay's the full package. As much as Will has drastically improved in promos, I'm always going to be a Jay White girly. Jay White is always going to be the starting player if I have to make a promotion. I'm always, like, Jay's always going to be the guy I fully back. And right now, if it was me, I firstly probably would not be doing this Moxley storyline. I would be focusing on pushing a Jay White to the top and having him up there with Swerve. And yeah, that's what I would be focused on. And Ospreay high in the mix as well. But yeah, Jay White all day. Like, if Jay White asked me, I'd start a wrestling promotion with him tomorrow. Like, no problem at all. Kai, do you see Baron Corbin going to AEW? It honestly depends who his friends are. I think that Tony's willing to hire most people who have been thrown out of WWE. Not Dijak though, but if Baron has the right friends vouching for him, I could see Tony bringing him in. I personally think it would be a mistake. I think I like Baron Corbin. I really didn't like him when he was being pushed on us as Constable Corbin. I don't think anyone liked him then. But I remember meeting him and interviewing him in person and everything. And me and every other journalist who had that experience came away being like, whoa, Baron Corbin is such a nice guy that we can see why the company are behind him. He's very good with how he presents himself, with talking, dealing with media and stuff like that. But as far as a wrestler and a character, I do see him on that TNA level. No offense, TNA. I mean, I would take him over like Nick Nemeth, who's currently in TNA. I wouldn't have given him a shot because he's so like that ex WWE Impact Zone level. But Baron Corbin, I don't think Baron Corbin's going to come to AEW, but if he's got some really high up friends that can convince Tony, I'm sure Tony would let him in. Okay. I've got a few more, so I'm gonna like pick some as we finish up in about 15 minutes. So if you have more questions, like get them in now, and I will try and get through as many as I can. Maria, do you see any similarities with Tony Khan and Dixie Carter? No, not really. I think that would be unfair to Tony. Um, they're both very enthusiastic about their companies, though. Um, I think that Tony just suffers from not being a strong enough leader and not being able to separate his fandom from being a businessman and from being a creative force. But I don't think that him and Dixie are similar. I think he's a very unique guy, Tony Khan. Fernando, is TNA getting a first shake in this partnership with WWE? No, but no one gets a first shake in a partnership with WWE, and no one really gets a first shake in any partnership. There's always a dominant force. Like, think of the AEW New Japan partnership. I think AEW was really the dominant force in that. And now you look at the situation that New Japan's in, although they are trying to improve, they lost Okada, Ospreay, and Jay White to AEW. So Okada and Ospreay, certainly two of New Japan's biggest stars that Tony was able to show them. He was able to get them through the forbidden door to see what life in AEW looked like and then ultimately take them. So there's never, ever equal partners. Darren Wallace says, what's your favorite between Canada, United Kingdom, and United States? United States, 100%. Yeah, if anyone can help me get my visa, I would love you forever. But yeah, United States is always going to be my favorite place. Chicago is always going to be the place I want to end up. And living in Canada, which I've only got a few weeks left of, is just a way of me being closer to the United States, honestly. And United Kingdom, I have no real like love for or connection to. I mean, I'm from Belfast in the north of Ireland. So I'm Irish, but it's complicated. And United Kingdom is not like really in my heart, or do I have any affection for it? And I just like American things. I think it really boils down to, and wrestling's a big part of that, and being so influenced by wrestling from such a young age. But I would pick United States between those three, and Canada second. Okay, Duke 4628 says, hi, Stephanie. Hope you're well. Thank you. I am. Just tuned in now. My question is, in 10 to 15 years' time, who do you think will be looked at as having the better career, Omega or Danielson? I think Danielson, just because of the WWE run. I think in 10 to 15 years, WWE is still going to be the dominant brand, like seen as the actual main stage, like the pinnacle. And the fact that Danielson was able to have the career end run that he did in AEW, as well as everything he did in WWE, including his WrestleMania moment, all of that, and how Brian, he defied the odds to get over in that WWE system, and him being able to defy the odds is what made him a huge star, that then made him so impactful and successful in AEW too. So I think that Danielson, yes, but Omega, because I can't see Omega ever going to WWE, but we'll see what happens with Kenny now when he comes back. But to me, like, before he got sick, and I'm really hoping things aren't going to change, but Kenny is the like the GOAT, and we're just living through it right now, and it's hard to appreciate it when you're in the moment. But Kenny's going to be looked back on really fondly. But I think just in general, like Danielson will probably be looked back on as having like a slightly better career just because of all the WWE stuff. Okay. Oh, some of these questions getting down to the end here are getting spicier. Wow. Okay. I may have to be really honest here as we get to the end. I may need my vape, guys. Just looking through these. Okay. Big Man Dogs. I could see MJF bringing in Corbin as his new enforcer. Pretty sure they're friends. Yeah, I could see MJF doing that too. I know they posed together at a premiere. I think it was the Iron Claw premiere. Maria, if someone asked you how to get started in what you do and how to be successful, what advice would you give? How to get started, just start. If you want to write, just start writing about wrestling. Create a Substack, whatever, and just put your writing out there. And you will not ever get paid and will have to work for free. And if you want to get started in content creation, just start. Just film yourself doing reviews of whatever, Dynamite, Raw, whatever it is you're into. How to be successful. Don't do anything that I've ever done. My advice would be to play the game. And like genuinely, my best advice is play the game, make as many connections and friends as you can. If you see anything bad going on or see people acting badly, just ignore it. Just be happy to be there and be as nice as possible to everyone. Don't ever call anything out. Don't ever complain. If you're a woman, just be a really nice, sweet woman, like exactly what people want. And do that. And don't ever think about what you're doing or who you're associating with. Just cash checks. Fernando, that's bleak, but that would be my advice. Fernando says, were you ever a Marilyn Manson fan back in the day? Yes, I was. I was a huge Marilyn Manson fan, actually. But it was like the friends that I made when I hit a certain age. I think when I hit about like 12 and I was getting into all the goth stuff, I made friends with like older goths, and they were very adamant on just listening to goth music, but they also all liked Marilyn Manson, but they knew that he wasn't a goth. Like, he's not technically a goth. He's just someone like appropriating the style, but not making goth music. So I was really, really into Marilyn Manson for like a very long time, and it only stopped due to everything, the allegations recently and all that stuff that I'm definitely not going to get into on a wrestling live stream. But I think that it's important to know, like, when we have our conversations about Vince McMahon and how we should feel about Vince McMahon or Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan or whatever, and this happens in like all forms of entertainment. I just watched a really great like documentary on the history of the Cosby Show. Like, Bill Cosby is another person, and certainly with Marilyn Manson, I've had to really think about how I now look at his art and the influence that he had on me with all the stuff that's come out about him. That's very hard, and it is a very hard thing that we unfortunately have to deal with when it comes to these bad men and how they let us down. But I think the most important thing is to not ignore it, and not ignore it or not brush it aside. Have it be an open dialogue and something that we think about and talk about. Okay. Joe, are there any free agents that could fit in? AEW could benefit from picking up roster size debate aside. I honestly can't think of any free agents. No, there's no one that I can think of. I wish that AEW had been able to take Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. Um, I really do, but I can't think of like free agents that spring to mind that would be good pickups at all. I think where we're currently at with the indie scene is people who aren't seasoned enough to be on TV, and I think Tony has picked up some people too early in their careers, and then also people that are just ex WWE guys that like I wouldn't want there. Fernando, why does Eric Bischoff hate Tony? He used to be Tony during the Monday Night Wars. I think I've talked about Eric before on here. I actually think it's very sad, the situation that he's in right now. I think he just hates Tony because Tony didn't want him as any kind of advisor, or maybe Tony didn't give him like the respect that he thinks he deserves, because Eric was used by AEW early on. He did one of those like inner circle debate things, and then he suddenly took a turn. But I think the other big part of it is he realizes that there's so much money in bashing AEW, and not only that, but there's also so much money in being nice to WWE, which is another thing I'd advise people to do if they want to make it in the wrestling business. Be nice to WWE. There's a ton of money in that. Like, look at Jim Cornette. His whole platform is bashing AEW, and that's what he makes his money from. And he was someone who, like when Tony was starting AEW, did some advisor work for him, that he signed an NDA over, and things didn't work out between him and Tony, and then he made a whole business out of bashing Tony. So I think as much as Tony deserves criticism when it comes from like old guys in the industry, it just depends what guys Tony is willing to play ball with. Like, I don't know what this current state of Tony's relationship is with Dave Meltzer. I don't think it's as strong as it was in the beginning, but I'm not sure if Dave totally sees that. But if you look at like Dave, his platform is never going to be bashing AEW, because he's definitely got the like a ton of respect from Tony. But I think guys like Eric and Cornette just feel disrespected and have like inflated egos. And it's not even that, like, Cornette, to me, he is very smart when it comes to wrestling, but that doesn't mean you have to use all of his ideas. Eric, not as much, but yeah, I think that's just why they hate them. Okay, Juke says, you said on a review recently that Rick Knox is the second worst referee in AEW. Who's the first? Who do you guys think is the first worst wrestler or referee, in AEW? Okay, because we're between friends, I will say it. I think it's Aubrey. I don't think that she's good at she's not good at being distracted. She's not good at I think that she wants to be like a superstar referee, like a Nick Patrick, like from my childhood, or like an Earl Hebner. I think she's not very good at acting the role of a referee, and I think she makes a lot of mistakes. So I think that she is, in my opinion, the worst referee in AEW. Just when you watch her matches, I don't think she's very good. Got a lot of friends though. What is the best quality street chocolate? I would say strawberry cream, but I I really hate how Quality Street and Roses removed coffee creams, because coffee creams I love. My mom buys me 2 boxes of coffee creams every Christmas, and last year my brother got me Quality Street that was just the old coffee creams. So I love coffee creams, and yeah. Um, David Bennett, are you a Coldplay fan? No. Uh, Darren Walls, is there a way to change the field to be more accepting of women? I don't know what would do it. I think that it's just wrestling is completely male dominated, completely patriarchal. I think that there's so many older guys in it that just aren't going to change. Like I was talking on the Dynamite review about Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca, and Bully Ray is someone that, like, he cares about 2 things: one, himself, and 2, holding up the patriarchy in wrestling. I don't think there are enough opportunities given to women in good faith. I think that women are still so othered that it's still so like, we'll give this opportunity to a woman because we need a woman on our channel or part of our brand, or this, we're giving an opportunity to this woman because, oh, she's has opinions that are good and she happens to be a woman. Like, it's such a novelty. And there's nothing worse than being just a token. That happened to me before in a show that I was on, where it was just so clear that I was just there for tokenism, and that's the worst. I'd rather have no opportunity than an opportunity like that. And it's, right now we have Ari Emanuel, Nick Khan, and Triple H, let's just say, in charge of WWE. And I think that it's really hard to evaluate how good they are regarding women because of the history of WWE with the Vince McMahon and the Janelle Grant's lawsuit, and everyone not being cleared out from that. So I think that to work for WWE as a woman would be absolutely fine. And I think you probably wouldn't face anything bad if nowadays if you were a women's wrestler or an interviewer or something like that. But the power structure in the company, it's men. And then you look at AEW, and I do not think that Tony Khan has been great towards women. I don't think he's actually made the business better for women, and for some reason I thought he would when the company started, and I think I just thought this, and I was stereotyping myself, but just because he was a young guy, and that he had maybe experienced some discrimination in his life, that these were just things I was putting onto him, and I really thought that he would be a great champion of women, and that's not how things have turned out. I think I'm not sure if he's doing it. I don't think he's doing it in any kind of like maniacal way. I think he just doesn't factor in women needing a voice or women needing to be involved in certain decisions. So I don't think wrestling in general is going to be better for women until we get more women in very powerful positions in big companies. I'm not counting Stephanie McMahon in any of that. Okay, I have 3 minutes left. So let me just see. Ashley, if you had to book for AEW, what are the 3 things you'd change or implement? Love your show as always. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, book Jay White better. I would 3 things I'd change or implement. Okay, they have to. I don't know exactly how the writers' room works, but they need to change that. It feels like the writers all aren't allowed to talk to each other. There was this quote from Tony where he said he had like 27 writers, and I think he meant like 27 people pitching stuff to him all at once. There has to be a way to change that. Like someone needs to really sit down and go through the roster and plot things out better. I would also get them to invest more on people on the non-wrestling side when it comes to like promotion, public relations, advertising, all things like that, even talent relations. They're so far behind WWE on that. And I've often said when people talk about like dirty tactics by WWE or Chris Legento in particular, I really do think that he's just doing his job and that same job isn't done in AEW. So I would have, more investment backstage, better like structuring with the writers, better long-term planning. And I would also probably have to fire some of the roster. And I know that's not nice, but it is a business, unfortunately. And this kind of thing has to be done. But there is quite a lot of dead weight there, where after 5 years, it's just not going to happen for certain people. I think we need to accept that so we can give more time to building new stars that don't really have any like stink on them. And push Jay White. Okay, I think this is it because it is time for me to start work, sadly. But thank you guys so much for joining me. There'll be another live Q&A, probably right at the beginning of December because I will be traveling away in the last couple of days of November. So it'll be like in a month's time. I'll be back on Thursday night to, oh, my camera's just gone off. I'll be back on Thursday night to review Dynamite, which will be going head to head with NXT. And I will be watching NXT as well. I'm going to have 2 screens set up. So hopefully I'll be able to talk to you about NXT too. But anyway, thank you all that joined live. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment because then that helps me in the algorithm. And good luck, America. That's all I can say. Good luck for tonight. Bye.